Okay. Well, welcome everyone again to the round table. It's nice to have you. Today, WXOX is going to give us a refresher on DJs and doing remotes. And we'll hand it over to you, Sharon.
Okay, one second. Finish my typing there. Hi, okay, so I'm Sharon Scott. I'm the general manager and founder of WXOX LP in Louisville, Kentucky. Founded primarily with my husband, Sean Selby, who's the station operator, and then an amazing group of volunteers. We have an excellent board of directors that's been with us since the very beginning, almost all of them, and we're going on 10 years. Actually, we just celebrated 10 years online, and we're coming up on 7 years on the FM. That will be on Valentine's Day. So pretty exciting. And you can see our building behind us. This is the WXOX studio in downtown Louisville, Kentucky. And we have an amazing, like I said, volunteer staff. We have over 100 DJs, and they're all doing different unique programming. Really encouraging all of our DJs just to, express themselves, think about radio as its own art form, not just a medium that conveys other art forms, and play the music that interests them, talk about the things that interest them. And it's just really freeform radio in the purest sense. And it's so beautiful to see all the unique programming that's sprung just from giving people a free place to get on the airwaves and communicate with an audience. So I'm going to actually turn it over to a couple of our DJs who can tell you a little bit more about their radio shows. And then maybe they could just talk a little bit about the remote broadcasting, which I'll just preface it by saying that when the pandemic started coming across the country, we saw it coming in sort of from the West Coast, and we were here in the middle ground going, this is kind of creeping over towards us, and this thing is coming. And DJs started to get concerned, about going to the studio and what were we going to do when the pandemic hit Louisville. People with immunocompromised things and stuff like that, were getting really worried about how they were going to continue to do their radio show. So that pushed us to find a way that DJs could remote from home. It was really important to us that they be able to be live broadcasting from home and communicating directly with their audience in real time. That's always been very important to us, especially in times of emergency, which we felt like this was. And we felt like it was so important to be there for our listeners, not turn to pre-recorded programming, but actually be there with them going through this pandemic, even though we were all isolated at home. And, it was a really beautiful way for people to continue to be in contact with one another, continue to hear live music, continue to hear live conversation, all that stuff that they weren't getting when they were trapped in their home. And then, of course, getting the very most up-to-date pandemic information. So we developed a system, which I'll explain to you as we go. But we developed a system basically for the DJs to connect to a remote stream from home. They set up their studios at home. And when I say studios, that can be anything from a laptop computer with an internet connection and nothing more. And provided that laptop has music and a microphone in it. Then it can go all the way up, and hopefully DS is in his studio, I'm not sure, to a very complicated studio situation where you've got a soundboard and then you've got turntables, CD players, cassette players, whatever, going into musicians might have instruments going into a soundboard. And then that soundboard feeds another computer, which would be a stream generating computer dedicated to that. And then they would generate a stream in the cloud, and we would pick that stream up with our station computer and broadcast it through one of the inputs on our soundboard. And then that would then go out to the FM broadcast and also go out to our listeners who are streaming in online on a separate stream. So I'll clarify all that as we go along, but that's kind of that's the overview of how it works. And I've got Kara and DS, since I mentioned DS, do you happen to be in your studio? Can we have a peek inside? He's got I don't know what he's up to. He might be traveling, listening by his phone. Well, let's what does he say?
Oh, he's good.
Oh, okay. So
We're tuned in.
boo. It'd be much more fun if you were at your studio. Cool. Okay, but glad you're here. Hopefully at some point, DS, if you have any opportunity to chime in, you're welcome to, certainly. But I know how work goes. But DS has a really amazing, he's turned his garage. I haven't actually seen it in person, but I've seen plenty of pictures and live streams. He's got I believe it's his garage that's set up into a beautiful sound studio.
Wow.
He's a musician and a performing touring DJ, and has his sound studio set up back there. He had that actually already set up before the pandemic. And we were able to get him connected. Basically, we had the biggest challenge with his studio was that there was no internet connection. So we had to find a way for him to connect to the internet, which was inside his house, all the way across his backyard. It was a separate garage. So luckily we had, from our early days of remote broadcasting in different locations that didn't have internet, we had about a football field's length of Ethernet cable on a spool. And we lent that to DS, and he had the spool of internet cable strewn across his yard, so that he could generate a stream from his studio that we played then on air. So pretty cool way to work it out.
Wow.
Back in studio
Resourceful.
now, and we have our giant spool of Ethernet cable back in the house. So and DS is with INI Radio, as I mentioned. That's Tuesday nights at 10 p.m. So everybody, and that's Eastern time. He says by any means necessary. And that is how this kind of for us has been a whole experiment. We didn't know how to do it. We couldn't find anybody that was really doing this thing. So we kind of made it all up as we went along, and we've learned the hard way almost every time. So, but yeah, we've become very resourceful and creative for sure.
Yeah, that's impressive.
And then after INI Radio at midnight on Tuesdays is Kara Richardson is DJ Kara, and she has Parallel Universe, and it's I'll turn it over to her. I'm not sure if she happens to be in her studio.
I'm not in my studio. Hi, everyone.
Hi, Kara. Good to have you.
Thank you. I host a show at midnight after INI Radio on Tuesday nights. It's Parallel Universe. And when the pandemic started, the weather started getting nicer, and I ran a 50-foot cord from my modem outside, just dropped it out of a window to my back porch, and did all the shows from there. And once it got cold, I had to get a different cord. I had to get a 100-foot cord to go up to my attic, and just so I could have a nice quiet spot to be able to do the show.
You guys are all finding out exactly how long cords can be.
Yeah.
Yeah, luckily the Ethernet cables do not have any sound quality loss over large distances. So yeah, you can, as long as you can find a cable. And we found a cable through it was like people who install like stereo systems and stuff in new houses and things like that. They have the tip on where to get some very, very long Ethernet cable. So if
Nice.
you need it. And the reason we're all talking about Ethernet cable is that it is possible theoretically to do this Wi-Fi without a hard line into your Ethernet, your internet connection. But we found it's really unreliable, and some people's Wi-Fi is better than other people's Wi-Fi, and it'll work for them. But we find sometimes it'll work for them for like 6 months, and all of a sudden it just starts getting really glitchy and like losing sound and dropping out and things like that. And we're like, "Are you on the Wi-Fi?" And they're like, "Yeah, but I've been doing Wi-Fi for 6 months and we've never had a problem." And it's like, well, now you have a problem, because eventually the problem almost always happens with Wi-Fi. So in order to avoid that, we really recommend that you plug into the internet with an Ethernet cable, not just use Wi-Fi. And then nowadays that can require an adapter. A lot of the new laptops are not coming with Ethernet ports, but you can get an adapter, and it seems to work pretty well.
This is a side issue, but Marie was mentioning earlier about how her Zoom will freeze on her sometimes. Do you think that's related to the same Ethernet connection?
Very well could be, yeah. Marie, I don't know if you've tried plugging in with the Ethernet cable, if that's solved your problems. No.
Okay.
So, okay, so I guess I'll kind of just, I've got a website that I made when we did this the first time, Stephanie, so thanks for inviting me back. And what I
Yeah.
want to try to do this time is be a little more straightforward so that people, I know you have a lot of people who tune in through the Pacifica website to watch these roundtables later.
Yes.
So I want to try to be as streamlined as possible, but sometimes I'm a little too talkative. So if I get off subject, please steer me back. But I want to
Okay.
I've got this website that should help us out. I think it looks like I'm able to share my screen and that hopefully keep me on task. So we'll see.
Yep, that looks good.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right. So this is a still from 2001: A Space Odyssey, because we call our DJ in studio DJ Hal. You guys have seen that movie, will understand the reference.
Yes.
And so our mission at Art FM is to kill DJ Hal before Hal kills us. And so Hal will take over. Hal is our mainframe computer in the studio. And when there's no DJ on air, then Hal takes over. But we've just are ready to get rid of him and have live DJs all the time. And so remote broadcasting has really been, a great way for that. And we did not actually so we've really prided ourselves on being live radio all the time, and at least as much as possible. And with the help of this live broadcasting, we were able to do that during the pandemic and keep everybody safe and feeling comfortable at home. And the way we did that is we created a secondary stream. So your website, your radio station already has a website, most of you, where people can go and play the stream and listen online. That stream, we will not mess with that stream at all. We aren't even going to think about that stream, except if you want to think about how you originally set up that stream. That information will be helpful now because you're going to do that all over again. So as a station manager or director, the first step to doing this is to establish a secondary stream. So again, don't mess with your first web stream, but you might want to go to that same provider, or you might want to try a different provider. But what you need is someone that can host a web stream for you. And we found, let's see, that Abovecast is the one we started using, but they just recently switched. And now they're SoundStack. And for us, I don't obviously have any kind of stock in their materials or their product. But we found it was the cheapest. It's like $10 or $12 a month. And it had the highest bit rate for audio quality. So, and also the highest number of listeners, which we actually don't need. You can try to get, when you're looking for a stream host, here are some of the examples. So here's some people that host streams, or you can, again, go back to the same provider you use for your mainstream, talk to your IT person or your engineer if that's not your role, but, and just say, hey, who hosts our web stream and can we get another one? Or should we try someone else? Here are some of the different services. And all you need is, we love high sound quality. So we go for the highest bit rate to get good sound quality. And then you can also go for the lowest number of listeners, because in reality, you only need one listener, maybe 2 or 3 extra, but one primary listener, and that's going to be your station computer. So no one else except your DJs and your staff are going to even know about this secondary stream. This is all back end stuff. So no one's going to be trying to tune in from other places to this particular stream. So no need to pay for extra listeners. But with Abovecast, we got a lot of listeners, actually more listeners than our mainstream. So we're thinking about switching over. But anyway, so just get yourself a stream host, number one job. Then when you get the stream host, you'll need to request a direct URL from the stream host. And that's a direct website where when you go to that website, it automatically starts playing the stream that you've set up. And that direct URL you're going to use and you're going to program into your station computer when it's time to pick up your remote broadcaster. I found that Abovecast actually, you would think they would give that to you automatically when you do this, but they didn't. They gave me some kind of stuff that went through third-party applications. So just remember, ask for that direct URL. And this website, Stephanie, you might I don't know if somebody's able to type that into the chat, but this is a good resource. So artxfm.com/remote stations.
Okay.
And I have another one that's more for DJs, but this one's for people who are setting up the station side. So once you get that direct URL, you get the stream host all set up. The next thing you're going to get from that stream host are access codes and a password. And these access codes and the password you will be sharing with your DJs. And that's okay because it's not, again, not your mainstream. It's a secondary stream that no one else has access to except you and your DJs. So it's, you know, okay to give them the password. If they start doing something crazy or go rogue or whatever, you can always cut them off and you can change the passwords. No problem. I know security.
I have a little question.
Okay.
When you say if the host won't allow another stream, does that mean if you get another host that you have two hosts, or you try to find a different host that will host two streams?
Most of these companies will host two streams if you're willing to pay for it.
Okay.
We went with a different company specifically for redundancy in the case that one company, you know, went off air, had technical difficulties or whatever. The other company would probably still be live, unless it's like an apocalypse or something terrible. So we just varied ours, but you can totally get a secondary stream from your same provider. But just tell them you want it to be, you know, a totally different stream. If they have different servers, maybe they can put it on a different server. So if one of their servers goes down, one of your streams, you could let them know, you know, what you're doing. But
Okay.
yeah, so no problem at all to get a secondary. So, okay, so now you have got your new stream service set up. You've got a direct URL, you've got the access codes and the passwords. Okay, so now you're kind of all set up on the station side. What you will need to do is program your station computer to pick up that stream whenever a DJ goes on air. And that's going to be pretty simple. If any of you play Democracy Now! Or something like that, it's the same process. You'll just get a link and you'll program your automation to pick up that link whenever it's time for the DJ to go on air. You can also do this manually if you don't have automation software. Basically, you would just open a browser on your station computer and go to that direct URL and let it start playing. And then you play it into your soundboard just as you would anything else coming out of the computer. So you would have a fader on your soundboard. You'd raise the fader, illuminate the button, and push play on the stream. And then whatever is on the stream will be going out. Once you've got that going in through your station computer, it will come in through your station computer into your soundboard and then go out to the FM and to the original stream.
Cool.
Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So that's how the process works. Does anybody have any questions right now about setting that up? And I'll get into how we get the DJs connected in 1 second. But I just want to make sure that's clear because it can be a little confusing. But establish your stream service, get the direct URL, get the access codes and the password. Tell your computer to pick up the stream when it's time to go. Okay, now we'll move on to what the DJs need to do. The DJs, so essentially they're going to be generating their own little radio station in the cloud, or their own little online radio station. And no one's going to be listening except you, the station staff, you know, who's making sure everything sounds good or whatever, them maybe to make sure that they're sounding okay, and your station computer, which will be picking it up at the proper time and sending it out to the world. Now, they can practice all they want on this secondary stream, and nobody will know and nobody will hear it until you tell your station computer to play it. So there's plenty of opportunity to practice before they actually go on air. And we definitely recommend doing that. So I'll get to that in a second. But the first thing the DJs are going to need to do after having a computer that they know has a internet capacity is they need to get their own audio encoding software to put on that computer. And we recommend Audio Hijack for Macs. That one the disadvantage is that it costs $60 each one. The advantage is that you can do a lot of great things with it, like record off the internet, just it has many fantastic features in addition to broadcasting online. For PCs, they would use broadcast using this tool, which has the terrible acronym BUT, and Rocket Broadcaster are the two different options there. And those are both free. Now, Audio Hijack the DJ will specifically determine which sources, which programs, which microphones they want to broadcast that are connected to their computer. But the other two, the PC software, they will simply broadcast everything that the DJ is doing through their computer. So they just broadcast the entire system audio. There might be ways, I'm not sure, I don't have a PC, there might be ways to change that, but that's the way I understand it works. So these are called audio encoding software, and all they're going to do is basically allow your DJ to generate the stream. They're going to encode the audio and connect it to that secondary stream that you've set up. So then you will be giving the DJs those passwords the passwords that we talked about earlier, and they'll be punching them into this software. There'll be a place in this software where they type it in. And then once they do that, whenever they're ready to broadcast, they simply open that software, open whatever audio sources they're going to use, and push start broadcast. And that will generate their stream. Hypothetically, they'll connect right away to the secondary stream and you'll be able to hear them. Doesn't always work that easily, but all kinds of troubleshooting things. But that's the idea. So they get the software, they enter the codes, they push start broadcast, they play their music, and they're connected. When they're done with their show, they push stop broadcast on that encoding software, and that disconnects them from the stream. And then the next DJ can start broadcasting. Only one DJ can broadcast at a time, obviously. So it is actually possible if one DJ tries to connect while one day DJ is on air, you can actually kick someone off. So you have to be very careful to schedule things right and make sure your DJs are only connecting at the exact time that they need to be broadcasting. So does that make sense how the DJs are going to connect? They just get this audio encoding software, and then that's where they're going to start and stop their broadcast. You really don't need to do anything else with that after you've entered the codes. The main thing that you're going to be controlling when you're DJing is going to be your microphone and your music. And as mentioned, you could be very simple and just use the music in your computer and use that audio encoding software and say select iTunes or whatever and push start broadcast, and away you go, you're broadcasting music. And then you can use your internal microphone on your computer. Some of those sound pretty good. Others of them are terrible, and you might need to get, some kind of external microphone, but those are pretty cheap these days, the USBs. And then always, always, always make sure your DJ is wearing headphones. That's a really big deal. Because if you aren't wearing headphones, one, you can't tell your levels, but you can also, there can be all kinds of problems if you're not wearing your headphones. Maybe your mic isn't even on and you're talking away. So just always make sure you're wearing your headphones when you're on the air. And then, let's see, you can get as sophisticated as you want. You can add turntables, you can add, like I said, musical instruments, all this kind of thing, but you're still broadcasting through that one computer and going out to the internet. In fact, let me skip through this. And this is another website that might be helpful, artxfm.com/remote manual. And this is the one that I give to the DJs, and so that they can understand what they're doing on their end. This is specific ArtFM stuff, but I think you can, get what you need out of it. Okay, so here we go. So this is the equipment that they'll need. Again, they'll just, from their remote studio, they'll be connecting to a secondary stream. This is a private stream for DJ use only. It will not be on air until it's picked up by the station computer HAL. When it's time for your program to air, the new stream is opened on a web browser on the studio computer. And this DJ in studio will illuminate that fader on the soundboard, raise the levels and set them appropriately. And once they've done that, they can actually leave the studio, and this can all be controlled remotely. And once they've got the DJ stream playing, then, you know, the next DJ, it can kind of be passed off down the line. And once the stream is going, nobody needs to be in studio at all, as long as that soundboard is set in the correct way. Make sure the levels are right. So this is what the DJ at home needs. They need a computer, they need headphones, and they need an internet connection. And it says preferably internet. I've gotten so I require the DJs to have Ethernet. A lot of them don't, but then they, you know, then later they come and say, oh no, you know, I don't know what's happening with my stream. Everything's dropping. And it ends up being because they're on the Wi-Fi. So, so highly recommended that they plug in with the Ethernet cable. Optional gear is an external microphone, an external mixing board. If you use an external soundboard and external mixing board, you've got to make sure that it's got a USB output that can go into a computer, because that's how you get digitized. And there's a lot of them out there that, believe it or not, still don't have a USB out on the soundboard. So if you shop for one, make sure it says that has USB features. You can connect record players, CD players, cassette players, any kind of digital device, phones, computers, iPads, whatever, and live instruments. And all that can go through the soundboard. And I have a little picture of how this all looks. Let's scoot down. So it's very fantastic artwork here. But you've got in the center here, you've got your mixer and all the inputs, your microphone, your computer, or your iPad or whatever, your record player, whatever it is, coming into the mixer. Here's a record player coming into the mixer. You can have as many of inputs, of course, as the mixer will handle. And then you've got the USB out going out of the mixer, and that's going into another computer. That's a broadcast computer. So if you're set up like this, where you're using a soundboard, this computer cannot be the same computer that you're using for music. This is specifically the computer to generate the stream, and you'd need to have your music over here in another computer, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
This computer can be, we had some really crappy, like $200 laptops that were, you know, bought like 20 years ago, and they work as long as they can get to the internet and generate a stream. That's all you need them to do. So this can be a fairly inexpensive computer. Just make sure it's reliable, you know, on its internet connection. And then from this computer, this is where your lovely Ethernet cable is plugging directly into the wall, or into, you know, probably into a modem or something like this. Is a little simplified, but you know what I mean. Got the hard connection. So here's an example of a mixer with a USB out. And you can see it's got a variety of ways that you can input items. This is a fairly cheap, I don't know, things have changed during the pandemic, but as I recall it, this was just over $100, maybe $125 for this mixing board. And a lot of our DJs got this one. And it's real simple because it just has a few channels and a mic input. And, you know, you can kind of just have some very basic controls on it. Just keeps it really simple. But then, like, I'm sure DS has a very complicated soundboard, so I'm sorry we can't, you know, it's really up to you and how far you want to go. Here's another one. This is a pretty nice Newmark mixer. This one is a little more expensive, but it includes 2 turntable preamps. So if you have turntables, it's a good chance you're going to need to have preamps, but this one has them built in, so you pay a little bit more for that. Again, here's the broadcasting and encoding software I was talking about. Rocket Broadcaster is one. And this is the page where you'll be entering the codes that we talked about that you get from the stream host. And the stream host will provide you with all this. And then you'll provide it to your DJs. And then that's what it looks like on Rocket. This is what it looks like on Broadcast using this tool. It's really pretty, this software is really pretty simple. You can kind of just click through it until you find just these few little things until you find where you need to go. These 2 programs, Rocket Broadcaster and Butt, do nothing as far as I know other than generate a stream. So it's not a complicated program. You'll get to these windows that you need right away. But if you need any assistance, everybody is welcome to reach out to me. I can put my email in the chat. And then this is how Audio Hijack looks on the Mac. And again, these are those codes and passwords that you get from the stream provider. And so once they get these codes pumped in here, make sure they save it as a preset. And once they've got it saved as a preset, they don't need to mess with this anymore, except they will open this program when they start their show, and they'll push down here. This will be red actually when this window is closed. And they'll push this little red start button, and away they go in their broadcasting. And then it's up to them, you know, whatever they're feeding the broadcast to make their music sound good. And then when their show is over, they simply push this button again and they stop broadcast, and then they're done. And then the stream is clear for the next DJ to get ready to go. And on these two, on Rocket Broadcaster is a very simple thing as well. Like this one, you just push the red button. When you open the software, when you're ready to start, push the red button and make sure that it'll show you if you're getting levels. And if you're getting levels, then you're on air. And then when you're done, you just push stop and it disconnects and again clears the stream for the next DJ to connect. So that is the process. You know, there's just little things like Audio Hijack, the mic is on naturally. So you want to be careful of that. Make sure you know the mic is on. You never want the mic to be on when you don't know. Turn it on. These things you turn on and off by clicking the blocks. And then you can customize depending on how sophisticated you are. This is a very simplest, you know, setup, but you can get really pretty sophisticated and do all these levels, and you can add pretty much any app you want to. So you can do an interview through Zoom and have that, you know, as one of your apps that you're broadcasting, or you can have iTunes, you can have an external microphone, all that. So you can really get as sophisticated as you want. But this is a pretty simple setup where you've just got iTunes and a microphone, and you know, then you just push your start broadcast, you push play. You would control the music through iTunes. On all of these systems, to control the music, you simply do it as you normally do in your app. So you would just, you know, skip around through songs in iTunes or whatever it is. Start and stop them there. Let me go back up. I was kind of skipping around, make sure I didn't miss anything. Okay, once we set up our stream, we got the DJs have the encoding software, they're ready to go, we're ready to try it out. We always recommend a time to test the stream before they go on air. We did this with every single DJ. And what that requires is they've got to have somebody listening, a spotter, that's prepared to tune into the stream that's not going out over the airwaves. So they'll just, you know, the spotter will just click on that direct link and listen from home and see how it's sounding. You don't want it to go through the station computer until, you know, everything's good. And the DJ at home will start their broadcast and the spotter will listen. And, you know, the first thing you're going to see is, are they able to get connected? There will be error messages if there's something wrong with their setup. Usually it's something wrong if they can't connect, like some of the password is wrong or something's wrong with this information. And what I do is I have them go to their setup page. I tell them where you entered your password, take a photograph or a screenshot of that and text it to me. And then I look at that and I make sure that they've got the address typed in correctly and all that kind of stuff. And 10 times out of 9, there's just one little number or something that they've got mixed up or something like that. So so just have a look at that and be able to review that carefully. If they're not able to connect and they have an internet connection, I mean, make sure that they're able to connect to other websites. But if they are, it's probably, if they can't connect, there's probably going to be a problem here. Then let's see, then we listen for stability. During the testing time, I tell them to stay connected for at least 20 minutes. And we just listen and make sure there's no dropping in the stream, audio dropping out, silence, or anything like that. This is usually not a problem, again, unless they're using Wi-Fi, and this is how you'll be able to tell. So if they start dropping out and glitching, ask them, are they connected with Ethernet? And if they say no, you might want to tell them, pack it up until you get an Ethernet cable, because it can be very frustrating for you as someone trying to teach them when there's a very simple solution and they don't do it. But I don't know. The Ethernet cables are not very expensive. I don't know what the pressure is. I guess people are just so into Wi-Fi, it seems old school to plug in, I guess.
Yeah, it's already 10 years ago or whatever.
Yeah. So then let's say the DJ gets connected, their music is sounding good and stable. You also want to listen for audio quality. These things have levels. Some of these things have levels, they might need to bring down the volume on their iTunes if it sounds crunchy or something like that. You just want to try to get a good sound. Let your audio engineers troubleshoot that. And then if let's say they're connected, they've got their 20 minutes, everything sounds good. Then you want to do a mic check and make sure that when they go on the mic that they sound good and clear, that their microphone sounds okay, that their levels are okay. When they talk, you want the voice levels to be similar to the music levels, obviously. So that can be a little, encouraging them to speak louder or get closer to the mic or whatever, that kind of stuff. But then after that, if they're able to get the stable stream and their audio sounds good, then they're ready to go whenever you're ready to put them on air. And they just keep those passwords in their computer until they're ready to start, until it's their time. And they don't do anything at all with them unless they have permission. Again, they don't want to interrupt someone else's show or kick someone else off. But when it's their scheduled time to go on air, then you just tell your station computer to go to that direct URL that you got from the stream provider, and it plays through your station computer, goes out through the soundboard, goes to your FM, and goes to your stream. And then people are listening all over the world, hopefully, to this DJ who could be anywhere in the world. And we have DJs now. It's been really interesting. It's been 2.5 years or going on 3 since the pandemic. We've had DJs move to different countries, to different states, and they've been able to maintain their radio show on Art FM. So that's pretty exciting. And then it's cool because when DJs travel, they can then broadcast from anywhere that they're traveling. So we have a DJ that's from Japan, and whenever he goes to visit family, he'll do his broadcast from Japan.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's really neat. And it's cool. We've had DJs be at the beach and you can hear the ocean in the background, all that kind of stuff. So you can really once you have this ability to remote broadcast, your DJs can really get creative and have a lot of fun with it. So
Awesome.
So it's a lot of technical stuff. So I'm not certain if, if I went too fast or if that made any sense or whatever, but definitely open to questions.
Marie or Glenn, do you have any thoughts or questions?
That was very helpful. Thank you. I know we've been using this for remote events, but we're looking to try and get DJs more into the swing on it.
Yeah, they'll love it. And sometimes the problem is they love it too much. And now we're trying to get DJs back in studio now that we're reopened again. And some of them are like, I'm never coming back. And so we're rolling with it for now in this kind of hybrid world, but it can be a lot of stress. Like if they can't connect what I always explain is that in the past we had one studio where we had to troubleshoot all the issues, and now we have like 120 studios where we're having to troubleshoot audio issues and connection issues. It's a lot, and you'd think by now, 2.5 years into it, everybody would get the hang of it and be doing great. But like today, see, our automation system, if they don't connect to the stream when they're supposed to, like it's scheduled to pick them up when they're going to be remote broadcasting. And if they don't connect within 3 minutes of their showtime, then DJ Hal takes over and reverts back to like our auto mix. And so this happened today actually, and the DJ was doing her whole radio show and I was in a meeting, so I wasn't listening. And turns out she was doing her whole radio show just for herself, for that private stream, because our station computer wasn't picking it up, but she thought she was connected. Now, we always tell our DJs to have either a listener that you can rely on or another device that you can go check and make sure that you're connected. But she did her whole show, all to herself.
Oh, no.
So, but we told her 40 times, make sure you check it somewhere else, and she didn't. So nobody got to hear her show.
She probably won't forget now.
I know. You'd be surprised.
Oh,
No, but not her personally. I'm just saying, you'd
it
think.
happens. It
Right?
happens. Yeah. Well, I have a question. I'm curious, a question for the WXOX DJs. What you really appreciate about this system, the second stream, and like what you have found particularly challenging.
Hi, I'm Kara. I found it challenging to feel like you were still on the radio and not just in your home. It's always good to listen to the DJs ahead of you, because when you come in, you could be in a whole nother mood.
Mm,
And when you're coming and going from the station, you get to talk to the DJ ahead of you. You're listening in the car on the way there. So that was one thing that you had to be very mindful of. Don't just take for granted that you are home and your family is there, your animals are there, and such. So now to be back at the station, I feel like those kinds of distractions aren't going to happen,
sure. Yeah, that's interesting.
And to feel a part of their whole radio station. But then, as bad weather comes, at least we won't have to switch to, we have other options. So I think there's really good things about it, but also to break the habit of just doing it from home. I'm a late night DJ, so it took my everything to just go back in, because it was so easy. Just midnight, I'm at home, I don't have to get dressed or whatever.
Yeah.
But I broke that habit and I'm going in, and now it feels, like you're part of everyone instead of your own little spaceship.
Yeah, that makes sense. That it's nice to have that as a backup, but there's something about being in the studio that gets you in the headspace where you want to be to do your show. That's interesting. Thank you, Kara. Yeah.
Thank you.
Another issue with the remote broadcast that took a little getting used to. This is Derek DJ DS. Is just the handoff from one DJ to the other, because there's that slight delay before that transfer, and you don't want to end up cutting off somebody, or you don't want any dead air. So getting that timing down was always key. But like Kara was mentioning, being back in the studio is definitely a joy, because you actually feel a part of the overall radio community again. And then just being an individual soldier hiding out in the trenches. But
Right.
if the weather gets bad, hey, I will be in the house with the homies.
Right. And it's not forever, at least if it's the weather.
Exactly.
So that's okay. So when you say the handoff, because when you're in the studio, you can see the other person working and when it's your turn to chime in, and you're kind of flying blind. Otherwise, if you're remote.
Not necessarily fully blind, because everybody's got their specific time frame when they need to be on the air, but just the delay from you starting your stream versus them ending their stream can sometimes end up being a little bit of a hiccup. But once you and the person before you ends up getting on a pretty good schedule together, it could almost be seamless. We've had a few pretty seamless transitions when we were there between Kara and I. But there was also a few, she was like, hey, I can't get on because I was still logged in. So
Okay.
just a few things, just better communication is what I end up helping out if you guys have to go that route.
So it takes a lot of work to sync up.
Not necessarily a lot of work to sync up. It's just, just everybody being mindful of the timing and making sure that when you are done, you're stopping your stream so it'll free up the stream for the next DJ to take over.
I see. Okay. Well, thank you, Derek. I appreciate that.
No problem.
Yeah, that's really, I think that's really interesting comment. Both of those, comments are very interesting and revealing. So many of the DJs just really miss that being a part of the studio and being, before, in the before days, it was really a community center. The building's right downtown and people would be stopping by all the time. There'd be music and art shows and just like all this stuff happening. And then all of a sudden, of course, nothing, like I'd go down to the studio and be just horrible, like nothing. It was really truly felt like some kind of apocalypse, no DJs, just so quiet. But their voices would be coming in through this stream, and that was really nice. But it just wasn't, it was just like we lost so much, even though the station still sounded great, we just lost so much of that community while everyone was promoting. So it's been really nice, now to have the DJs coming back and and that's been feeling really good. These two, you can tell they've always had a great show. You become friends with the people on either side of you because you're seeing them every week, and
family, not friends, family.
Right. That's right. Totally, it is. It really is, and so it's been nice to see people getting back together and these reunions happening. But yeah, there's a few DJs that are just like, no, I'm cozy at home. I'm not going to be coming back. So we'll see, we'll see how that all plays out. I think eventually we'd like to really get to live in studio all the time again, except in emergencies. Yeah, it's great that if they travel, they get sick, the weather's horrible or whatever, they can still do their radio shows. So it's good to have that. It's really good to have this capacity. Now all of our DJs know how to do it almost. So that's really exciting. But there is just this weird, the communication just really has to be there with the remote broadcasters, because like I said, you have I'm not sure if it's 3 or 4 minutes, but is the window when one DJ stops their connection, the next DJ has to start within that time frame. Now it seems like a lot of time, right? Because if you got dead air for 3 minutes, that's like an eternity. And this has happened. But if we figured out, we started having the DJs text one another, like, okay, I disconnected now. And so that means the next DJ knows that's when they push start. However, there's like a delay in like text messaging, it's got to go to outer space and come back down and all that. So there's still a little bit of a delay there. So that's not a perfect system, but it was pretty good, at least you're getting it in with that 3 minutes. But it really made DJs you have to be on time. If you've got that one song you want to play, but it's not going to fit in studio, you can give each other a little more slack. But this, you really have to be, you can, as long as you're communicating, have to be a little bit flexible, but some DJs are not communicating and they just know they need to start at this time.
Right.
And if you're still connected, like Diaz was saying, if you miss, it happens a lot. You just forget, you get into your show. Well, it did in the beginning anyway, but they'd forget to stop broadcast and they'd stop their music, but they wouldn't be broadcasting anything. And then the next DJ couldn't connect. So then you'd have to be, get involved and be like, hey, and hope you could get in touch with the DJ, because sometimes like you couldn't even get in touch with them. And then so that could be very frustrating, obviously not good for the community spirit, because the next DJ is getting all mad because they can't do their radio show. And then conversely, if, like I said, if they connect too early, like, oh my gosh, I was on air my son and I were doing a tribute for a guy, he's basically my son's grandfather, and it was his like 94th birthday, and we're doing his really special birthday, and we had this great song, was the last ending song, and the DJ coming after, I don't know, he decided to connect 5 minutes early and try to connect, and it kicked us off the air, and we weren't able to finish our tribute, so you just have to be really careful, cautious, communicate. Also, like Kara said, make sure you kind of like listen to the vibe of the show before you. I was telling a story the other day. It was actually a 9/11 tribute we were doing. And then it was very somber, of course, and serious. And then the next DJ just must not have been listening at all, because he like comes in with this like party song. It's like, okay, everybody, let's party, and it's like, oh, it's not,
Yes.
just a little bit of a transition really would have helped with that. But it seemed very unsensitive, and so,
Yeah.
and the listeners don't know what's going on, and they don't know that they're in 2 different locations, and this kind of stuff. And they're just going, oh my gosh, this guy's really a creep, So anyway, just, be conscious.
Right.
Even if you're not in studio, be conscious of what's going on air before you get on the airwaves. Good advice.
I can tell you guys have had a lot of practice since the first time you gave this talk. Like you really got it down.
We made some more mistakes to learn from.
Well, your presentation was just so straightforward too. Appreciate that. Just very clear. I love your little drawing, actually.
Good.
Very, very helpful. Yeah.
Cool. Well, yeah, we're definitely here for anybody. It's been a big learning process. It seems very simple, but then it just like, I don't know, technology. And then
Well, right. Anything unknown, you just got to stumble into it before you find out what's going on.
Yeah, absolutely.
Any more questions from anybody or?
I put my email
Okay.
in the chat there, so.
Oh,
feel
excellent.
free to
Thank
write
you.
that down. And I think that we've helped a few stations get started figuring this out. And once 1 or 2 people around the station know how to do it, then it can kind of, really spread like wildfire. But I think I would just say that to me, the DJs really, as you've heard, they really like the ability to remote broadcast, especially if it gets, situation where they can't come to the studio or don't want to, it's wonderful. It really is. It's cool. And then it's exciting to hear them broadcast in different places. It's kind of fun. You might get weird background noises, like the kid, running in the room saying things, or the dog barking or whatever. But I think that's kind of fun. I don't know. Some stations might not like that. Personally, I think it just adds to it.
It's kind
and
of
you get more of
charming.
the environment.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I was going to say one more thing about what Kara said is really true, is that sometimes when you're just sitting at your home computer playing music, it doesn't really feel like you're on the radio. And the same goes for guests, I think. If they're not actually in the studio, they don't get that seriousness of this is an FM broadcast. And what I was going to say is you just make sure people are so careful about their language and stuff like that. Because if they're in their kitchen and they're used to cussing up a storm or, or whatever, they just need to be really careful and just remember,
That's
they're
interesting.
on the FM dial, even though they're sitting in their kitchen, and they're still beholden to all the FCC rules.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I mean, because
Yeah.
we trained a few people over the pandemic remotely, the people that had never been in studio, and it was really like they weren't getting like this is really an FM broadcast, like this is really a radio station, even though you're sitting in your bedroom, so you just really have to reemphasize that.
This is real.
Real. This isn't just, playtime, but yeah, so that's been one of the challenges. Other than that, really just the technology and internet connections and stuff like that. But
Well, thank you again for refreshing us. This was great. And I know we'll have a good amount of people on YouTube who will want to check it out too. So thank you, Sharon, for leading us through it. And Derek and Kara, thank you. Thank you for joining us. It's very nice to have you. And Glenn too. Thank you. I'm glad you could be here. And who else? Chris.
Well, we got Chris. I was wondering.
Chris. Oh, Chris. Yeah, Chris. Did you have anything you wanted to add?
No, I just need to.
Okay.
I just need to get started and install these programs and buy a mixer and kind of futz with it a little bit and see how it works. But
Did that
it
make
seems pretty
sense to you?
straightforward. It's just a matter of getting hands-on with it. So
Yeah, I think that's the truth. Okay, cool. I'm glad, as someone who's actually like really just about to do this, that it seemed to make sense what we were
Yeah.
doing. Cool.
Yeah, that's good. That's a good sign.
Good litmus test there. Yeah.
Well, we wish you luck, Chris. Hope it goes well.
Yeah, we'll report back.
Yeah. Okay, well, thanks again, everybody. This was great. It was great having you. And
Yeah. It's always fun to be here. I love these. You've been doing great, Stephanie. This is for those who are just joining, these have been weekly meetings since the beginning of the pandemic that have been just total lifesavers for us at community radio stations, trying to figure out, how do we manage this major crisis, and stay on the air. So thank you so much, Stephanie.
Oh, yeah, you're
All you
welcome.
do.
I'm glad.
Yeah,
I'm glad we could do it.
me too. You've been doing great. To keep it going this long is amazing too. So yeah, I'm down for the monthly things though too, because everybody's getting going again.
Everyone's getting, yeah, I can tell everyone's getting busy again. So, I mean, that's a good sign. So
Yeah,
that's what we want.
good. Great to
So,
see you too, Marie. Thanks I hope everything works out with the FCC over there.
yeah, Marie, you
Well,
have to keep us
according to them, it
updated
has. But
too.
thank you.
Woo,
I hope everybody
Yes,
has
yes.
great holidays.
yeah.
Thank you.
Well, with that,
All right,
we'll see you next time. Have a great Thursday.
great. Thanks so much, Stephanie. Thanks,
Take care,
everyone.
y'all.
Bye.
Stay safe. Bye.
Bye-bye.